technical skills are more important than ever, and it's becoming more of a generalist than being a specialist in data analytics. Uh, you have all this ChatGPT, the stock of SQL going out because ChatGPT can write it for you. You tell the table column names, it will write it for you. And it's not exaggeration, it's going to happen. But the key is with any new technology is as technologies become relevant, you get more newer opportunities.
Welcome, everyone, to the Tech Guide podcast, where we give actual advice to those wanting to break into tech or are looking for their next gig. We have Ajay Yvs on the podcast today to talk about analytics with us. Welcome, Ajay. Super excited to have you here.
And I'm said here, very glad to be part of here and looking forward to this since the last one. Yep.
It's going to be awesome. And let's start where you attended college. You attended college at the Birla Institute of Technology and Sciences in India. You are now in San Francisco, though. You made this move about 6 or 7 years ago. What has been like the biggest adjustment to working in the United States, like coming from India?
So, yeah, it's been 7 years since I moved to the States. So back in India, so I did my engineering, as I said, from Pilani. And then I did my MBA right after that. Uh, at that time, I wasn't sure if I was going to continue technology, if I was going to do software engineering, because I didn't computer science engineering. But during the course of MBA, I was pretty sure I wanted to continue in analytics. So I worked with Native, which is like a Bitcoin company in India, where I did strategy and analytics roles. So after that, I came to stick because my wife was working and she had a transfer. So I quit my job and came over here. And while looking for opportunities here, I found my current job at Walmart. And it's been 7 years almost. I think it's enough, but it's been fantastic. I haven't got any need to move out of the company. So I've worked within the company and worked on multiple projects, being plenty of learning. In terms of the differences, right? Because I've only been working at Walmart in the States, I see like the scope of opportunity that you have over here in analytics, just because of sheer size of the company versus what I used to work at back in India. If you want, there's everyone is accessible, and if you have a different idea or a different project all together and you want to do a deep dive, there's no one who's saying no. And you just have to, it's like, you can say it's like a hackathon. You have your own hackathon. You have an idea you want to get out and everyone's supportive. And if it's feasible, you are going to lead that product as irrespective of your level of the company. So I think that's something that I found very interesting in the States here. And it's probably across different companies here, which are like larger in nature, in the scale and the business size. But yeah, that's been my experience.
Yeah, that's really interesting that you say that, because we've had a few other people that have moved from India on this podcast, and they share their experience as well. And a lot of the times they say they're blown away. They're surprised about the opportunities that are here to either move around in the company or just like the sheer amount of opportunities you have, especially if you're in a place like San Francisco.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Yeah. And I do want to talk about, you hinted a little bit where you're working at right now, and it's a company called Walmart. Of course, everybody knows it. I want to talk about getting that role. So you started with Walmart in November 2016. You're coming up on 7 years there. How did you identify Walmart as a place you wanted to work at when you came here?
Yeah. So I was pretty sure I wanted to work in analytics, and that's my background as well. I had some experience there. So while coming in, I was looking at opportunities. And then I looked at this role. So at that time, Walmart is just building out its marketplace as a platform. And I think it just started in my initial interview with my recruiter. We have like 10 sellers and we want to scale it to 100,000 sellers. Okay.
Oh, wow.
At that time in my mind, I think the only difference between Amazon and Walmart today is the amount of items. Because I was looking at e-commerce shopping
Yeah.
and the number of products that were available at Amazon, which is our competitor, versus Walmart was high. Like that was predominantly a major reason why someone would go to Amazon versus Walmart. Because everyone knows, I think, believes Walmart is definitely a lot more valuable to your bank, provides the more economical price. But the
Yeah.
reason why I first look at Amazon is probably because of this. So I thought that was something that will be handled because of this new project. And I wanted to be part of this project, which is at the very initial stage. It's kind of a new team, which is kind of started within the entire big org, new initiative. I found it very exciting, and to build the analytics for such project sounded very interesting. To bring the sellers on board, to see what the sellers think of the new platform, with all the different tools this third party sellers have to use, because everything is getting built in a hurry, right? So we will have, but at the same time, you need to manage it well. So I found channel exciting, and that was the reason that made me to accept that role.
Yeah. And that
That
sounds like
was
a
the
big,
first project in the UI. So building analytics platform for marketers.
and that's like a huge project to start to like work on. That's like a big initiative. If you're trying to get to 10,000 sellers, like even further, like that's a big initiative. I'm curious, like, what's the first step that you take? And you have a huge problem. You want to do this
Yes,
huge initiative here. What's like the first step that you took to identify, like, hey, here's like our next course of action of what we should be doing?
yes. When I joined, I think we had, as I said, I think maybe 20 sellers by the time I joined. And the entire focus is on a couple of things. One, we have a portal called Seller Portal, which today it's so much easier for anyone to come in and join. But at the time, it's new. And we were doing white glove service to sellers to onboard for each seller to come onto the platform. And the entire focus is on how do we speed up the entire onboarding for our sellers.
Mm.
Because it's just 10 sellers. We are not focused on the sales for those sellers. We definitely want them to have sales, but we're not going to look at what item they should be setting up, what price it should be. That's probably metric number 5 or metric number 6. The top metrics that we want to accomplish is how do we speed up the onboarding time? How do we improve their satisfaction when it's
Mm.
on platform versus competition? That is the only metric that we want to touch upon and focus all our effort. Anything that contributes to reducing the time is our focus area. So uh, that's how we started out with, and we had to look at all the. It's like measuring your own e-commerce platform, but it's purely for the backend for the sellers. So it's a new tool. So we measure the tool, how they're using it, what is their feedback, how do we prioritize the features that we want to bring out next for the tool so that they can onboard faster onto the platform. So that was the route that we took.
Interesting. So the whole goal there was to increase the onboarding time that someone could get on the platform. Can you share with us like how data was used to inform those decisions on, well, we should make this decision because XYZ? Can you share a little bit more about how data like drove some of those decisions?
Yeah, definitely. So you have different tabs on the portal, right? One, in order to onboard first, even in you have something called like you have your company information you need to put in. You need to upload your tax information. And then you have to undergo screen the company. Then you have, so the different steps, I think there are about 5 or 6 steps. And then the last step is you actually upload at least one item, which is
Mm.
sendable on Walmart.com. So for each of these steps, it's a sequential process, and we try to see which ones can go in parallel. And the data sets that we used on obviously how much time each seller is taking in each step, where the seller is from, what competition the platform basically use. For
Mm.
example, One of the things that we learned is they have to set up the items from scratch again. While we have all the information about the item on the competition platform, we can just leverage it to probably give the ESN of the item, which is the Amazon ID, or we'll do the rest. We'll build the item images, we'll build the item description, we'll build. You don't need the seller to provide all those details again back. Uh, because that's when the seller who's on board, he might put it in his background and forget about it. He's not going to do. But
Yeah.
instead, if you ask him what are those item IDs or item identifiers, we just do the bulk of the work for them. And other data sets are seller feedback that like we ask sellers what they want. It's both objective and subjective questionnaire.
Interesting.
And and then we looked at what are the features upon the portal which are being used the maximum amount of time. So it
Interesting.
worked both ways. We expect few features to be one-time use or to be used in the time of onboarding and not after. By,
Mm,
for example, information like tax information, how we validate it. So there were challenges around that which we had to circumvent in order to reduce the time that they are taking over there. So these are few things that we use. Again, yeah. So that was one project. I think we worked for about. I thought I would be working on this particular project longer, but it only I was only there in it for 6 to 8 months, and then I jumped into a different project. But yeah, again, as I said, that's the interesting part of the job here. You get to
yeah.
experience all these different projects.
Yeah. I'm really cool. Is there a project that stands out to you that you've worked on recently or whatever, past 3 years that you like really enjoyed just because, the feedback's fun, you're driving business decisions? Does one come to mind for you?
Yes, I think there are a couple of projects. One, if you've been using the Walmart.com from the past pre-COVID to now, you will see the website is completely changed. So there are a lot of legacy systems within Walmart because it's like a 50-year-old company. We have a lot
Yeah.
of systems that we own and we really run and retired many of them. And the website now that you see on the website is completely revamped. So which is ready to do a lot more enhancements in the upcoming near future. So the one project that we did is was obviously a revamp of the website where we had to work with the engineering, product, and analytics art team. So our team is kind of business and operational analytics, which works with stakeholders across. So we have product team, we have business team, we follow this concept called four in the box, where you
Okay.
have teams across engineering, business, product, and analytics and design in that to decide how do we make a particular feature right and what is needed in terms of analytics, in terms of design, in terms of engineering, architecture to make it work. So for this website redesign, we had to um, change all our existing dashboards in the sense that we had customer metrics where certain website, page load time, what is the error rate for each page. It can be item page, it can be checkout, it can be cards.
Hmm.
So all of this and the backend services. So we had to redo all of it. And in a way that all the leadership or senior leadership can immediately know where the issue is for a particular problem. They say this P1 today. The website is down. We need to quickly identify the root cause of it. And when your
Wow.
company website is revamped, you need to work around with a lot of teams, a lot of stakeholders to ensure the same level of upgrade that you had before you decide to change the website is there even after that. So just because it's website
Interesting.
it cannot, the uptime cannot be from 99.95 to 98, right? So
Yep.
you maintain the same level of consistency and standard before a loss. That was the one interesting project that we got to work on. Second one is, again, one of our unknowingly, before COVID, we launched pickup and delivery, where
Mm.
you can do curbside pickup for online grocery orders. So that was a project that we were engaged in to identify which items should be eligible for which store in order to be picked up. So not every item can be picked up curbside. Exceptions would be probably TVs where they're very used to bring out into your car or something like that. So it started as a very small project and it kept on increasing from 5 stores to 10 stores to 100. Now it's there across the nation. But at
Yeah.
that time, we had to work on challenges to identify which items should be eligible for this program. And for the items which cannot be eligible, how do we enable them? What are the challenges? So we had to work with the operations team, predominantly in the stores, to identify the challenges that they face in order to pick up a particular item. Like we had issues like inventory not being accurate. It's never 100% accurate when you come to store
Yeah.
because of multiple reasons. So you have a customer, especially if you just have 2 or 3 items left, a customer can pick that item and leave it somewhere else in the store. Or you have something called a shrink in retail, which is essentially theft. So you do not know if the item's inventory is net like 2 or 3, and if the item should actually be made available to the customer online or not. Because if you do not make it and the customer sees it in the store, he again thinks the online service is not useful if he or she really wanted that particular item. So it's a double-edged sword. How do you manage that? How do you ensure? And at the same time, if you just give inventory for items which are not available, then you say you cannot fulfill it
Mm.
for the customer, then something called as the nil pick, and it the NPS scores go really bad for that. So customer dissatisfaction scores. So that's a project I think we worked for 4 months across business, product, and
It's really cool.
engineering to how do we solve this inventory issue and how do we better identify the items that should be eligible for this program. Uh,
Interesting.
we had it's a team of 5 people. Myself, there were a couple of data engineers and then a couple of other data analysts. It took us. We initially sat down with the business to understand their problem statement better. They just want to reduce the nitpick rate, which is essentially reduce the number of times we satisfy, we do not fulfill an order, or just increase the number of orders per se, or if we want to balance what should be our end goal before we even dive into it. And then try to measure where the data sets are, how do we build an analysis on top of it. Should we build a data science model which predicts an inventory of an item would be available in a given store at any moment in time?
Yep.
So
And
those
that's
are
what
the
I want
questions.
to ask about actually. So you guys have like a ton of data that you're pulling in. You're working across like products, say, or not product, like product, marketing, design, branding, all like these different departments.
It's,
I'm curious, like, what advice do you have for like young professionals to improve their ability to communicate these complex findings that you're discovering with pickup orders, the web design? How do
yeah.
you convey these complex topics to non-technical audiences?
Yes, I think the one thing I even saw it on a website, there's so many different titles for data analyst,
Mm.
data sports data analyst, data business intelligence analyst, business
Yeah, yeah.
analyst. So irrespective of what you call the role as data analyst, at least in Walmart here, requires you to function with an understanding of how you can translate business needs into an analytical problem,
Mm.
right? So that is one skill. I think that will help you irrespective of where you are standing, whether you are level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4 in the company. So you have to understand someone coming to you with a problem. What is, how do you differentiate what his wants are versus what his needs are, or what he asks versus what he needs, right? Not wants and needs, but
Mm,
asks and needs. Because your stakeholders often come with ask something else, but the exact solution they're needing for, someone will come to me and say, I need X, Y, Z input, but
yeah.
the input is not is what he needs. What he needs is a solution for a problem, which he's going to do on top of the report I provide, which essentially I can do that for. So I can essentially answer the actual question which he wants to know instead of we giving him a report and then he does something on top of it. So it's instead of doing it in parallel. So I think the key skill is trying to answer, identify the problem and stick to answering the question. Yeah. So because when you have a lot of stakeholders, especially, everyone has their point of view. Of course, everyone is trying to contribute to the problem at hand, try to identify a solution. But when you have many people, it goes sideways, and it answers questions, but not exactly the one which you are looking at. So I think the key is having a framework identified from a particular problem at the beginning of when you're taking up a new project. So we have that's something that we are trying to do automate. Like when you take up any project, you decide on what frameworks you want to use for a particular project. It can be like five ways or do a Pareto analysis. Like you want to, if there's a problem, you just want to identify the top 80% of the probable root causes of it. Because or you decide on doing lean startup kind of framework, which is where you have the stakeholders working very closely with you and you keep on iterating your solution, what you say. I think it's important to uh, figure out which framework you want to use. It can be like define, measure, analyze, and then control, like know what's your problem, and you're only trying to find a solution for that particular problem. You're not going to put your hand everywhere around and get all the different answers that are related to the project, but doesn't answer the question. That will send when you have orders. And so, what is it that, how are we going to approach the problem? Because often what happens is we just dive into a project without actually knowing what we want to do or how we are going to do it. So, I think that framework, defining the early stages of project will help.
Yeah. And so it's really identifying first before you even get started. What is the problem we're trying to solve here? And then make sure every time we're running analysis, we're running up to that problem of what we're trying to
It,
solve.
it needs to roll up into that. If you are doing a defining problem approach, it need not be that you need not know what problem you're trying to solve in a, like so the example that I gave you, online grocery curbside pickup. That
Yeah.
the exact problem is we need to identify better inventory for the items accurately.
Mm,
For it. So that's a more clearer problem. But in a project like where we completely revamped our website, that is not, you do not have a problem. You just want to ensure the site is up. But in general, you are trying to revamp everything and ensure everything stays together. So in those cases, the problem might be you have a problem which is like you need to ensure availability, but that's not it's too large a problem to say because anything can contribute. So you have
yeah.
to ensure, you have to make it something like, okay, this is a problem where you have a lot of variables. So I'm going to tackle one by one. And you just need to do an iterative approach of solving one app whenever, or it could be doing a multiple layer approach. I am going to do 10% of this and then build upon it, keep building upon it. Maybe you would need much more like a daily stand up or a much more frequent interaction with your stakeholders. and constant collaboration.
Yeah. That's what I think is a really important point that you just hit on, because some of these projects like that, like you're solving are vast problems. What's like the actual analytic, like what's the metric that we're trying to measure here? And identifying each individual variable and like how those can play with each other, I think is like super important advice.
Indeed. Yeah, indeed. Yeah. No, I mean, there are, so we are a team of 30 people overall, broader analytics team is within operational analytics, and each of us have right now, for me, I have 4 people who are dealing with a particular area within the, and there's the team which deals with inventory. There's the team which deals with suppliers and item catalog. There's the team which deals with fulfillment of orders. So there are different teams which do, but often what happens is there will be special projects which cuts across all the things. Walmart membership. There, especially when they are new and getting launched, we call them special projects, and we work across all these. Walmart membership has the orders that need to be fulfilled have to begin separate. The items, they have sometimes special pricing. They may not, they may. Sometimes
Yeah.
subscriptions come into the picture for Walmart. And there are a lot of mixed up pieces across pillars. So you have to work with different teams. I think the key is, again, as I mentioned, knowing what framework to use.
Yeah.
Data is secondary, and you will know where each data will come through. And you have the support of at least in larger teams. While you're expected to also do some data wrangling, clean up the data, you have the support of data engineers who can help you with it. So, but you need to know how you want the data to, because if you are not a data engineer yourself, you are always relying on support of someone, and
Yeah.
you go to them with a requirement and they do it for you. And after some time, you decide, okay, that's not how I want it. I want to do something else. So it's a wasted effort, basically, for the data engineer. It happens sometimes. It's not that it does not happen. But we try to, if there's a way to limit it, try to plan it and see it ahead, how you want to have the data presented to you so you can do your analysis. I think that trying to foresee all different types of data or variations that could.
Yeah.
That's all.
Billy Naden, I was gonna say Billy Naden was on the podcast recently, and he's a sports data analyst for the WWE. And he said one of the biggest things that it like goes unnoticed in like a data analytics role is like how much you're like data cleaning, like data wrangling, like just to get the data in the format that you need to see it in.
Yes, yeah, indeed. That's the thing, right? Even data analysts. So data wrangling, data cleaning, I think takes 50%. Even with all the speaking with on the stakeholders, on the analysis that you have to do. So I think all data engineers or data analysts, even data scientists would agree with me when I say there's a sigh of relief once you complete the data wrangling part. Because that's when you can actually work and show and produce results. Because majority of the work is going into data wrangling, but you cannot essentially show anything to your leadership or your stakeholders.
Yeah.
There's nothing to show, but you are still working on it. So there's definitely a feeling of relief once the part of the data wrangling is complete on what you can now do with it. I think, yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Interesting.
it's with any job. Sometimes someone said to me, it's painting a room, painting a wall, and data, like prepping the wall is the bulk of the work that they actually do. So yeah,
Yeah.
it makes sense for them.
Yeah. And typically, what's the like next step that you take? So like once this data is wrinkled, once it's all cleaned, what's usually like when you're working on a project, what's usually the next step? Is it diving right into the analysis of it then, or building out the dashboards, or what does it typically look like?
Yes, so it depends on the project. as I said, for special projects, sometimes we are only trying to bring in insights. So it can go
Mm,
like one out of three ways. If you are only trying to bring in insights, present to leadership, it's a one-time analysis in order to decide, for example, which feature do we build next? Like there are a
yeah,
set of 10 features, how do we prioritize in your planning process? It could be, then there is few variables. It's based on customer demand. These are the top 10 features. And then you have complexity of those features. Like you have 10 teams needed for this feature versus only one team. How much effort is needed? How many teams are needed? So using
yeah,
all these variables, you just figure, okay, this is what we have. This is what we should do. So it's more of a leadership presentation on how we should proceed and
mm,
then continue. That's one. Second is, which we often do, I think is more dashboarding, where we gather the data sets. For example, we are launching drones. I think we recently completed 10,000 deliveries of drone deliveries.
that's so cool.
Yes. So 10,000 is like a small drop in the bucket for Walmart, but it's a big milestone for the people involved in this project. Like I said, there are a lot of projects coming through, and I can foresee like in 5 years how much drone deliveries might expand. So, but it's a new project. But we build out dashboard or a tool to essentially determine how do we identify which store do we launch next, right? Or how do we
So cool.
determine which items should be eligible for drone delivery? Because they have size constraints, weight constraints, department, like they have frozen, etc. Right? So they have a set of constraints, but because it's just 3 stores or 30 stores right now, which are doing this, it doesn't make sense for us to build a full-fledged tool for all the merchants and business team to put in their items and see how it will work. So
Interesting.
that's where we come in. We build the tools where in the decks, we build them a dashboard where they can import a particular criteria and see the results for themselves. And as things scale up, these dashboards will eventually be made into a tool, which we have engineering teams which will build out these tools for merchants. When I say merchants, is essentially business team for particular department and so on, who will
That's cool.
enable their items, and it will be flowing through our systems. I did data set instead of just a dashboard tool, right? So we build out tools which act like proof of concept, which the engineering teams can then take upon and build it as part of our entire software architecture. I think that is one, essentially with any new project. And then third type is more of the reporting that goes on an ongoing basis, where you want to see any anomalies, for example, falling through our system, or if you want to see what are the top items which had,
That's so cool.
which had page views. It's essentially the third bucket is product analytics, where
Mm,
when someone says analytics, this is what they'll think about. Product analytics is all the business questions that someone wants to take a look at. You want to see what are the top items across a particular department, which were showing out of stock. Okay.
yeah,
And you want to compare it against what is happening in your inventory system. Is it accurate? Is it not? If it's out of stock, do we have, can that item be replenished? If not, why is it already not being replenished? You want to answer those questions via dashboards and probably get a summary of numbers and so on. But the product analytics way of working.
that's really cool. And I feel like I could keep talking about you forever, but we are winding down on time here. I just want to ask one more question. Like a career advice, one piece of career advice you'd have for anyone that's younger in their career, what would you give them?
Yes, I would say, of course, technical skills are more important than ever, and it's becoming more of a generalist than being a specialist in data
Yeah.
analytics. Uh, you have all this ChatGPT, the stock of SQL going out because ChatGPT can write it for you. You tell the table column names, it will write it for you. And it's not exaggeration, it's going to happen. But the key is with any new technologies, as technologies become redundant, you get more newer opportunities. I think, especially in data analytics, apart from soft skills, which is the ability to understand the problem which is being asked, how do you need to be, you need to be able to understand what the science is, for example, right? You need to be able to understand what data engineering is. You don't have to know like particular algorithm and data science, what forestry does, but you need to know what classification is.
Mm.
What. So data analytics is no longer just about the, there will be roles, which may be just about SQL, but those are dying fast. And eventually we, at least here in our teams, we expect any new data analytics person to be a generalist in the sense that he should be able to understand, do data wrangling himself. He should be able to understand, translate the problem from an email to the actual problem that we want to solve. And, uh, and for he or she to determine what is the ideal solution. Is it just pulling data from SQL? Then that's good. We should do that. Or if it is something where data science approach could be a better solution, we should be able to identify that and tell to our stakeholders, this is what you need to do. We can help to do it on amongst our team, or we can help to guide to a different team who can do that. But the ability to know what has to be done here, I think is the key skill that any data analyst should. I think that will be gained when you work upon different problems, either online or even before joining any company. So if you're someone new to data analyst, you
Well, I
need to
appreciate that. That was great advice. Be a generalist, not a specialist. So, AJ, thank you so much for joining us today. Great conversation about all things Walmart, the projects you've worked on, and a lot of great advice. So, thank you so much for joining us today.